The verb. In Aramaic, the same 7 modifications occur as in Hebrew, only with slightly different names. Pe'al, with its passive, it pe'el. Pa'el, with its passive, it pa'el. And afel, with its passive, it afal. The only difference being the passive, itafal, instead of the reflexive, hitpa'el, which exists in Hebrew. The simplest form, third person, singular masculine, pe'al, is ketal, ketal, instead of katal in Hebrew, ketal. The Hebrew nifal, niktal, in the example here, is displaced in Aramaic by it pe'el, it ketel, it ketel. The Hebrew kittel becomes the Aramaic pa'el, kattel, kattel, and the Hebrew pu'al, kuttal, disappears in favor of a more regular form, it pa'el, it kattel, it kattel. The Hebrew hifil, which presents chirek as the first vowel only in kal, having patach in all the other moods and tenses, appears in Aramaic as afel, aktel, aktel. But in the Aramaic of Daniel, of the Elephantine Papyri, and of the Palestinian Talmud, we also have the form hafel. The passive of afel, namely itafal, itkattal, is somewhat rare, itkattal. In addition to the above, there are, as in Hebrew, other forms which are much more infrequent. For example, po'el as sober, to carry, sober, roken, to empty, roken, palel as in ngarbeb, ngarbeb, to confound, ngarbeb, shartet, to trace, shartet, palpel as in taltel, to carry, taltel, rabreb, to be great, rabreb, shafel as in shangabed, to subdue, shangabed, shezeb, to rescue, shezeb. Pe'il occurs with a few verbs as passive or reflexive of pe'al, as in nahir, to remember, nahir, chiefly, however, in participles. The t of the prefix of the passive it is transposed with the initial radical in verbs commencing with tzadi and zayin. Also, with initial tzadi, the tav becomes tet, and with initial zayin, the tav becomes dalet. Thus we have Ets Haim, Ets Haim, from Tzamat, to assemble, and Is Damen, from Zaman, Is Damen, from Zaman, to prepare. So Ets Haim, a much darker sound here, Ets Haim, from Tzamat, and Is Damen, from Zaman. Before verbs commencing with Gimel, Chet, Ngayin, Yud, Kuf, Fe, Chaf, Mem, and Nun, the taf of the passive prefix, it, disappears in a dagesh forte, and the prefix is usually e, in which the yud is probably a mater lectionis. In other words, it's there to ensure that the syllable is vocalized with the chirek, and thus the passive of petach, to open, is ip ptach, and this here is a doubled letter replacing the t which is here, so it's it petach, and this letter doubles, ip petach. Of gechach, to mock, ig gechek, instead of it gechek. Bangal, to marry, bangal, ib bangel. The tenses and moods are the same as in Hebrew. In other words, perfect, imperfect, imperative, infinitive, participle, active, and passive. Some notes. The perfect, the third person singular feminine, usually ends in at. Ath in a more classical pronunciation, at. The Babylonian in ah. The second person singular masculine ending is often ta, side by side with t, as the second singular feminine. In the first person singular, instead of the Hebrew t, Aramaic has et or eight. These are both really pronounced the same, eight and eight. The third person plural masculine ends in un. Onkelos has u, and Jerusalem Targum, often the Targumim have un. The plural feminine ends in an, just as in Jerusalem Targumim, while Onkelos has ah. The plural masculine and feminine end alike in tun. The Targumim have a feminine ending in teen. The first person plural ends in nan, and sometimes just n. Onkelos has na, and Jerusalem Targumim have nan. Galilean Aramaic puts the accent on the final syllable, except in the second person singular masculine and the first person plural. Verbs which are intransitive of the forms ketel and ketul sometimes have a prefix known as the prosthetic aleph. The imperfect. The prefix to the third person singular and plural masculine and the third person plural feminine is ye. In Syriac, this prefix is ni. In biblical Aramaic, these parts of the verb to be, hava, take the prefix le, leheve. In Daniel, leheon, lehevon, lehevan. In Galilean Aramaic, this use of le is extended to all verbs, especially when the imperfect is used in the following senses. A clause expressing design. De leichul, de leichul. Or a wish or a possibility, and really the future. And we'll continue discussion of the verb in more detail later on. And in the next we will look at an example of a strong verb.